often wish things could be easier, don't you? I'd rather do something well the first time rather than having to work at it. I love a good shortcut. Who wants to do something hard anyways? And our culture certainly encourages us to feel entitled to having it easy. If you don't know something, just Google it, and you've got an instant answer. If you're hungry and you don't want to cook, well, call and get pizza delivered. Want to get famous? Go on a reality show. Don't want to go shopping? You can order online. Don't want to watch the commercials? Well, just DVR it and fast forward through them. Finding something difficult in the kitchen? We'll get a gadget for it. I gotta say, I borrowed a lemon zester this summer instead of trying to use a peeler or a knife like I usually do. It totally revolutionized my life. It was so easy. I think it was Staples who made it a marketing campaign that things that they sold made life easy. It all fits in this world that craves and encourages instant gratification. So if we like things to be easy, we're not alone. We've got a whole world that wants that. And our ancient faith ancestor Jacob, for example, spent a lifetime looking for easy ways to make his life better. He was king of looking for the shortcut. Ironically, most of his shortcuts caused him to have to take a longer path. But really, that's true in a lot of cases, isn't it? You know how taking what appears to be the first easy route often has longer term and more difficult consequences. Things have a way of coming back to haunt you if you don't deal with them in the moment. Like if you decide to buy something on credit so you can have it now rather than waiting till you can afford it. As Money Mart and Payday and other loan processors know very well, the interest charges are where the real money is. As a seemingly easy get-it-right-now plan can be a long-term debt problem. And most of us have had dreams about what we would do if we won the lottery. It would solve all of our problems, right? Only what actual lottery winners discover is that windfalls like that can bring with it all kinds of other problems. Take, for example, that situation in Nova Scotia where a woman is going to court to keep her nephew away from his share of a $1.2 million lottery win, even though both their names were on the ticket. So Jacob, back to Jacob, his first push of the easy button is to try and secure his family's fortune and future by manipulating first his brother Esau and then his father into giving him the blessing and the birthright traditionally given to the eldest son. Which makes Esau angry enough to want to kill him. So Jacob takes off to Mesopotamia, where his mother's people are from. And he meets his uncle Laban, and that's where he lives for the next 20 years. So much for a shortcut to his secure future. So he gets a job with Laban, where he develops his next easy button plan. He agrees that instead of being paid, he'll accept livestock. All of the livestock with marks or stripes he'll take. Laban thinks this is fantastic, and since he's kind of like Jacob and likes to get as much as he can as easily as he can, he sets about to try and hide all of the animals that have marks on them. But it turns out that Jacob knows something about heredity and recessive genes, and so he starts genetically engineering the flocks to breed a maximum number of spotted offspring in each generation. Well, this makes Laban and his sons confused, but also really mad, and even more suspicious because Jacob seems to have a way of breeding the animals so that he gets the strongest ones all of the time. Well, I'm skipping over a lot of details about his life, but as you can imagine, there comes a time 20 years later when Jacob can see the writing on the wall, and it's time to go. And so Jacob and his whole family decide that they're going to run and avoid the confrontation that is sure to come. Fast forward again through quite an eventful exit, and we find Jacob nearly back home to the place he left 20 years before. And then he hears that his brother, the one he ran away from, is coming to meet him with 400 others. That does not seem good. So the first thing Jacob does is hide half of his wealth, because you know he's Jacob. And then he takes what's left and he sends 3 caravans of gifts ahead, hoping to sort of bribe his way into his brother's good graces. And then he sends the rest of his companions and his family across the river, hoping maybe that if Esau is still mad and refuses the gifts, he might at least take pity on Jacob at the sight of these innocent wives and children. He is still trying to find ways to avoid the hard stuff. So Jacob moves his people up front and returns to the back to the camp on his own. But he has this very fitful night as he wrestles with the situation in which he finds himself. The Bible describes it as a fitful night where he is attacked by what can only seem to be a demon. And all night the two of them wrestle until, as daylight approaches, Jacob seems on the verge of prevailing, and his opponent dislocates Jacob's hip and demands release. But Jacob really wants to win and says, "Bless me first." To which the adversary responds, "Tell me your name." It's an odd thing to say in the middle of a fight. But we might remember that names mean a lot to Jacob in his world. He was first named for the fact that when he was born, he appeared to be grabbing his brother's heel. And for all of his life to this point, that gesture has become an identity for him. And he's devoted his energy and his wit into cheating and trying to get things that rightfully belong to others. He hasn't been a great guy. So when his opponent pins him down and demands to know his name, he's daring Jacob to expose the con man mask he's been wearing. Sure, Jacob might win this fight, but he's going to be exposed for who he truly is. There is a reckoning in this moment. Jacob will finally get what he deserves when he has to admit the con man he is. Except that's not what happens. When Jacob gives his name, this strange, amazing wrestling opponent says, "I don't think so. That doesn't really speak of you to me. And certainly not who you have to be. You're a survivor, Jacob. You need a new name. How about we'll call you Israel? One who has wrestled with God and wrestled with mortals and prevailed." And then it's over. It's just over. Was it real? Was it a dream? Was it God? Probably. Jacob discovers in the struggle that he is stronger than he thought he was. There are consequences to facing his past and taking responsibility, but they're not the consequences he expected. I think that might be true for most of us. When we finally take responsibility for our mistakes or stop avoiding that hard thing we were avoiding, we discover that what we assumed would happen rarely does. It's not how we expect it will be. Mistakes are survivable. Mistakes aren't to be feared. Mistakes can open new pathways. And it's not how we were afraid it would be. Because we know deep inside we were afraid of being rejected or of being seen as weak, worthless, or unlovable. But those of you who have been wronged will know already that when you've been hurt, what you are looking for from the person who hurt you isn't really for them to be hurt back. Sometimes what you want is an acknowledgement, an apology, a commitment to change the relationship, something that helps you understand that you are not defined by what happened. And if that happens, when that happens, you don't view that other person as weak or worthless or unlovable. Instead, it opens you back up to relationship with them. This is something that Esau has learned. Somehow along the way, although we don't hear very much of his story, but over time he has put away the grudge. He has somehow discovered that revenge and anger are not worth his holding on to, because they stop you from seeing the life right in front of you. He's had his own journey where he's learned that it's okay to be who he is, and no blessing that was given to his brother will ever take away the value he has to the world and to God. But Jacob hasn't learned that yet, and he starts to discover it, finally, through the wrestling. When he finally confronts the hard truths he's been trying so hard to avoid with all his shortcuts and easy buttons, he discovers that his identity need not be defined by what he has done, that he can make different choices, that he can be accepted. Which doesn't mean there won't be more mistakes, and it doesn't mean his life will be easy. It doesn't mean he won't get hurt. But it opens up a pathway through instead of just around. Sometimes there are valleys we can't avoid or walk around. Our only way to the other side is to just go through them. And our world, with all of its encouragements to find the easy way, doesn't do a very good job of helping us with that. Which is why we need faith stories, I think. Think about the 23rd Psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. So, if you are struggling right now, if you are walking through a valley, trust that there are blessings to be found there. Trust that when you don't take the shortcut, it can be worth it in the long run. Trust that you need not be defined by what you have done or not done. Trust that as you trudge that path, you are not alone. For life does not need to be easy to be good. And for that, we say thanks be to God.